You're listening to Permission to Shine, the podcast. Stories of overcoming obstacles and finding self-empowerment with Sherisse Bisram, Inner Power Activation Leader.
Hello everyone. Today I wanted to really hone in on something that keeps coming up for my clients, for the women in my world, for just women in general. And I'm seeing it on such a mass scale that I really want to address it head on because I feel like I don't want to sound the master of it, but I definitely feel like I have found the balance, the harmony, the understanding of this space. And it is that women are still in this cycle of hustling, right? And we still believe that success is something that we have to strive for, work hard for, hustle for. And that is the patriarchy. Okay. Now, when I say the patriarchy, and if you've listened to my other episodes, you'll know how I feel about this. It is not about people in particular or anything like that. It's the structure itself, right? And patriarchy is about how we as women have internalized how success has been perceived in the male dominant societies and cultures and structures for generations. And so we became that because that's what we believed success was and looked like and how we got there ourselves, right? Especially if you are a millennial or you worked through or lived through that era, you will understand deeply that that hardworking woman was put on a pedestal, right? And I think so many of us have absorbed that into our DNA. And the deeper layering of that is because maybe we were told in our childhood that we were not good enough, or what we did wasn't good enough, or we didn't, meet the standards of what our parents expected of us, or we had another sibling that you were trying to achieve the same sort of level of success as, or maybe you felt like that they were praised more, so you tried to mold yourself, or even maybe you were the firstborn and there was no one else to go and compare yourself to, so you had to carve a pathway. And then what happens is your parents' stuff is what they put onto you, right? And I literally did a TikTok about this today, talking about how we are not born with perfectionism. It's something we are taught, right? You think about when you do art, as a child, you're drawing all these random scribbles, right? And you're so proud of it. And you're showing everyone, this is my art, right? And then as you get older, it's it was cute when you were little. And then as you get older, you start to receive the judgments of people saying, oh, well, that doesn't quite look like that. Or what is that supposed to be? And then you start to learn gradually that if it doesn't look like what other people want it to, or if people don't understand it, then it's not good enough, right? Now take art out of the equation and think about that in yourself, in your passion, in your hobby, in your career that you've built, maybe it's your business, think about that there. People's opinions, how they've crept in and almost become you, right? And it's so interesting with thinking about, obviously our parents are one thing, but also the five people that you spend the most time with are the influence in your life. So whether you are, the CEO of your company, or whether you are, stay-at-home mum, whoever is around you the most, it's that energy that you are absorbing. I was going to say absorbing. So what that means is if you are surrounded by people that don't believe in you, are questioning you, are living life completely opposite to you. Say, for example, you are building a business on the side of, you have built a business on being a parent and you're like a mumpreneur and you're really successful and your other mum friends aren't, they aren't going to understand the way you do things. And so their doubt that they feel about themselves being able to do that is what they will project onto you. And the same with if you are the CEO of your company and you feel like everyone is kind of underneath you in terms of where they're at in their lives, you need to surround yourself with other CEOs doing other big moves, Otherwise, you will feel very isolated and you will feel like you're on the top of an ivory tower and you have no one to lean on because everyone is leaning on you, right? Let that sink in for a minute. And wherever you sit in this in your own life, I'm sure that every single woman listening feels like at some point in her life, she has felt everyone leaning on her and it feels overwhelming. And then what the patriarchy has taught you is you have to keep pushing through that. You have to keep forcing your way through every single step that you have to do, and it's all your responsibility. Am I right? I hope you're nodding along like, oh my gosh, yes, that's me. Because I was you. I was you. And it's one of those things where I am so overwhelmed with how much I took on other people's stuff because I wanted to make people's lives easier and or my perfectionism creeped in and I believed that I would do it the best possible way. So I might as well just do it all, right? I thought, do you know what? I'm not going to bother asking them to help me. I'm just going to do it all. And not even from a space of feeling like they're not going to do it good enough. It's just for me to cut time out. I was like, do you know what? I'll just do it. Let me just take it all on because I'll make sure it's all done and it's all going to be sorted. And actually, that gets you nowhere apart from back into burnout, which I'm sure we have all felt on a very deep layer over and over again. And I've spoken about this cycle before, but I used to do 3 or 4 different jobs a day, performing, teaching, being in different rooms with different people. I'd also be training, my body, my mind, all of these things are constantly putting in and giving out constantly. There was no room in my life for rest. And the idea of taking my foot off of the gas was scary. It was a scary space to be in. And actually, what that did do whenever I took my foot off the gas, even just a tiny bit, is that all of the wounds, all of the trauma, all of the hard emotions that I was running from caught up with me over and over again. And so I tried to avoid that at all costs, right? Not a healthy way to live. And I'm pretty sure some of you listening will feel exactly the same, like, oh my gosh, yes, that is exactly what I'm doing. And you don't even realize it half the time, right? If someone had said to me 5 years ago, actually it would have been longer than that. Wow, the pandemic just really took out half of our life, didn't it? Okay, someone said to me 7, 8 years ago that you're going to live a really different life in 7 years' time where you're not doing all of this stuff. I would have said you're lying, because I thrived off of it. And I'm sure some of you do right now too, that being needed, whether it is, you're, like I said, you're juggling multiple hats and people are saying to you, oh my gosh, you're so hardworking, or how do you do it all? And then sometimes you're like, I know, I just smash it out. And sometimes you're like, I don't know, right? Because we are oscillating between these two extremes all of the time. And that is the burnout cycle, right? Because you should be in a space of equilibrium. You should be in a space of, yes, the pendulum swings side to side, but in general, it never jumps too far unless it's for a reason that you have orchestrated, right? If life has swung that needle so far each side, that is the battle between the soul self and the ego. That is a battle between the patriarchy and the matriarchy, or your divine feminine and your masculine energy. That is almost a bit toxic, and it could even be you've got toxic feminine energy too, right? And I've broken this down before, that the masculine is the doing, right? And when we're overdoing, we're over pushing, we're over forcing, we're being a dictator. That is all toxic masculine traits. But when we are being manipulative and we are toxically trying to control the situation by controlling other people around us. Maybe we're talking about other people behind their back, or spreading rumors or lies, or being passive aggressive. That is all signs of the toxic feminine. So when I'm saying you're like swinging that pendulum to either side, the divine feminine and the divine masculine are in the middle of those spaces, right? And then right in the middle is obviously the divine union of both. And actually, you need all of it, right? So I don't want you to think it's an either or situation. It's a very holistic view. And I'll repeat that until the cows come home, because I just think that's the key to everything. When I'm talking about this balance that I've found in my life and that I'm teaching my clients, it comes from deep understanding. There's no other way around this. You can't project it, you can't pretend it, you have to be it. And you know what was so interesting for me now looking back on those cycles that I was in, you know, that's 7 or 8 years ago, up until the edge of the pandemic, I would say, even too into the pandemic, is that I would go probably a couple of months and I'd have a really big trip where I'd travel somewhere for like 2 or 3 weeks and I'd completely offload, completely decompress, and then come back and repeat the cycle again of working 3 or 4 jobs a day, doing lots of stuff, hustling, pushing, proving, right? And I felt like I had balance because I had those little holidays in between. But what I've realized more than anything is that balance comes from the not needing to do it. You know, when you actually stop for a minute and think about, and this is what I do with my clients. So if you have pen and paper or you don't have it yet, come back to this. I want you to write down in a day, what are all the tasks that you do, right? What are all of the tasks that you do or need to do? And then I want you to go back to that same list and I want you to tick off what is important for this week and what is important for today. And then even what is important right now. Because I'm pretty sure that all of the tasks that you've put down for potentially today can be done across the week, can be done across the month. And then in between all of those things of doing, you need to have rest. And if that means that your diary is so packed that you need to put in 20 minutes between each client or each thing that you have in, maybe it's that you cram in lots of calls, then you go and put the kids up, then you go to the gym, then you do this, then you do the food shopping, whatever that looks like for you, you need to cram in, well, not even cram in, that's the wrong word. You need to put in between each and every task you have 10-15 minutes just to make yourself a cup of tea, eat your lunch, have a walk, have a cup, I was going to say have another cup of tea. Yes, have another cup of tea. I have multiple cups of teas a day, right? That's just me. And that's my wind down. That's my mindfulness moment. So I know that once I've finished doing something, there is a moment of rest in between. Because if you are constantly pushing, pushing, pushing with no recalibration time, you are running into burnout over and over again. And this is for a day-to-day way that you can start to shift things up. But the deeper layering of this is when you start to give all of the things that you are doing to other people and you ask for help. And that does come, right? And I want you to know that does come because right now you might be listening to this thinking there is absolutely no one that can help me right now. And if you are in that situation, that for me really is a cry for help and support and a community or space where you can lean on other people that have been in the same situation. And so if you've listened to this right now and you've said, I have no one to lean on, you need to click on the link in my show notes and I've got a recalibration call in there and we need to have a chat because you are not supposed to live like that. You are not supposed to live in a space where you feel alone. And again, I tell you this because when I was driving to uni, and this was obviously right at the peak of, I would say I would have been maybe 18, 19. And my dad had passed away when I was 17. And again, I've been running, spending all my time running, pushing, proving, trying to get into uni, trying to do all these things, working 3 or 4 jobs to be able to financially support myself. Every day I used to drive to uni, I used to cry my eyes out because I felt like there was too much that I'd taken on. I didn't like who I was. I didn't know who I was. And I was in these spirals of like presenting to the world that I was strong and had it all together. But internally, it didn't feel that way, right? And then we move on years later, and I'm finding myself still like late 20s, crying myself to sleep because I couldn't figure out why, and it was because of this mask that I was wearing of being that hardworking person or, being the person that looked like they had it all together when they really didn't. And I think that, as a society, we have normalized this cycle, right? We've normalized the fact that we can be a boss babe or, a hard, strong woman or, we don't need a man because we've got it. all of that's really toxic, and I'm calling it out. And if you're offended about it, this is a sign that the work needs to be done because we do need men to help us, right? And when I think back to ancient times, and if you think about all different cultures and civilizations, they had the mystics, the women that would be, the nurturers, and the men would be the hunter-gatherers that are protecting and providing, right? Now, what's happened is that men have, almost lost that role because we've stepped up to meet them there. And then they're feeling like they don't know where they stand as men because women have evolved, right? And this is where it's not our responsibility, but it equally is our understanding to be able to soften into not having to do it all, right? And that's not about you taking away your strong womanhood. That's not that at all. It's about knowing your worth and your value and knowing you deserve to be held. I'm going to say that again. It's about knowing you deserve to be held. And what I mean by that is that you deserve to soften into something and someone. And if right now that only someone is you, and you are creating safety for yourself internally, so a part of you can completely surrender, that's beautiful. If you have someone in your life you can surrender to, they will appreciate you softening into them. And that can be friends, that can be a mentor, that can be your partner, that can be a community of people that understand you. And if you're saying again at this point, I don't have those people, click on that link, right? Because I do this work for a reason, because I've lived through it. And when my clients come to me, without a doubt, they all have this thing where their friendships are, they either put them on a pedestal and they're telling me that, oh, these people are amazing. I'm like, okay, how much are you doing? How much are you organizing? How much are you going to see them? And they're doing all the stuff, right? They're the ones doing. And their friends all think they're the strong one. Their friends all think they're the one that has it all together, right? Because they're not being honest. And then the other side to that is that they maybe lose connection with their friends because they're busy, and then it feels like it's been a long time and then they can't reach out because it's random. And I said to these clients, and it's a handful of specific women, which I know that you are listening because you are the same woman, I'm sure, in this space where life gets in the way, it gets hectic, and again, you feel like you've got no one to lean on. I am the bridge between these friendships, because I promise you now that with some of the actually probably across the board, all of the women I've ever worked with, their friendships have all gotten stronger from working with me, because I know the value of divine friendships, and I know the value of vulnerability and being open. And I promise you now, if you are listening right now and you have some issues with friends, open up. I'm telling you this, that everyone in your life is a mirror. And if you come to even people you haven't spoken to in a long time and say, hey, sorry, I haven't reached out in a long time. I've been going through this, and this, and I've been struggling to keep it together. And I've realized now I need to do something differently. And so I'm reaching out, one, to obviously see how you are, but two, I could really use a friend right now. And watch that friend completely scoop you up and hold you. And if they don't, they're not supposed to be there, right? I was going to say something else, and I thought, do you know what? It's not even it. It's that they're not your type of person anymore, right? They don't understand you or where you're at, because your level of vulnerability clearly triggers their vulnerability, and they're not willing to look at it. Yeah. So the people that love and value you want to be there for you. And I have gone through this over and over again. And even recently, when I had the eclipse portal drama, and everything was up in the air, I had to ask for help. And honestly, it's the most liberating experience I've ever had, to be able to say, someone needs to help me right now. I need a hand with things, right? And even taking on my VA, you know I just feel like we have built this ideology as women, and again, it's something that society has ingrained in us and forced us to believe that we have to do it on our own, and if we don't do it on our own, that we cheated, right? That's a lie. That's absolute a lie. There is no badge for the hardest working woman alive. Trust me, because I tried to compete many a times in my life and I failed. Um, I say failed, that's not even the right word. I failed because I wanted to fail at it because actually there's no badge. So what's the point, right? And actually, again, coming down to this point is that people don't want to be a quitter, but sometimes a quitter is the most successful person. And it's about that being smarter, right? And knowing that this race that you are in with yourself, right? To be the best version of yourself, to make this amount of money or achieve these goals and do that, what is it costing you? Does it mean you haven't attended any family events for years or friends events? Does it mean that you are not socializing openly or dropping things to go for a coffee with your friend? Does it mean that you are in the middle of a project, you're burnt out to a crisp, and your friend says to you, let's grab some lunch, and you're like, no, I can't? Because that there, my friend, is divine intervention from the universe saying you need a break. Are you listening? The universe doesn't want you to push harder, doesn't want you to force harder. And I don't know how many women need to hear this, but I promise you now, if you look back to your life 10, 20, 30 years ago, and you saw you now, you have everything you want, probably, right? Or at least 60%, 70% of what it is that you've been aspiring for your whole life, and you are not celebrating it. You're not where you are right now saying, I'm so proud of myself. You know, maybe you are, but you're using the accolades as the thing to be proud of and not the woman that you are now. And this is where we soften into that, right? Because I bet your nervous system feels solid and heavy, and you feel like at times you might have panic attacks or anxiety attacks because you feel like what you're doing isn't enough. And I promise you now, that isn't your voice, that's someone else's. It could be that your mum was an anxious person and someone told her that she wasn't good enough. So you watched her embody these characteristics and you observed and become that. Or it could be that someone told you that you wasn't good enough and you pushed hard for that. And it could be a toxic relationship, it could be a parent, it could be a school, a friend, whatever it was, whoever it was, you've absorbed a behavior that doesn't suit you or serve you, right? And that goes for everyone. You know, we all have these behavior patterns, these limiting beliefs that have come from something or someone outside of us that we've absorbed. And my work is all about that releasing of that because at the end of the day, it's not about holding on to these things. It's not about pushing through them anymore. It's about being able to dissipate them fully, you know? And I think that, you know, if I'm being brutally honest with you all, it's because we like the control, you know? Like we love the control of knowing where things are, and we want to force and push and hustle. We want to achieve the goal because we like that sense of control that you were able to do it your way or you were able to do it that way because that was what you wanted and you set for yourself, right? And that's the thing with goals. They're lovely to have, but it's lovely to have as a guidepost and not as the be all and end all, because when you are so hyper fixated on how it needs to look and be, you're not allowing the universe to flow through you, which means that manifestations get stuck because you're getting caught up in the how too much, right? You need to allow that to flow through you. And it comes with letting go of control, which comes from letting go of the resistance, from unblocking those beliefs and subconscious blocks that are in your mind, body, and soul. And that is everything that I do, right? So again, go back to that list that we wrote down and look at what's important and what isn't. And now scheduling rest, you know, now think about your week or your day and think, how can I add more softness into this now? Maybe instead of doing more hit training or cardio, you decide to do more yoga. That's another way you can allow more softness in. Maybe it's instead of training on your own at the gym, you decide to go with a friend or you do a group class instead. That's you adding more community, more softness, more connection, because that really is it. The reason we feel so isolated is because we box ourselves into ourselves, thinking that no one else is going through what we're going through. We become caught up in our own thoughts and needs, which is the selfishness, right? We're only thinking about ourselves. And this is what I say about depression is it's very, very selfish depression. It doesn't think about anyone else. And I'm pretty sure that some of you are operating from that space in autopilot, not knowing that you've been doing that, right? And this is where I say to you, you get to drop that weight. You get to put it down. Other people's opinions, the need to prove, the need to force, the need to push, the need to be everything to everyone. And right now you drop all of that and you care about you first. Because I promise you, everyone will benefit from your full cup and they get to receive your overflow. But you need to be full first. And I've said that a million times recently because it's so necessary, right? And I think a lot of women that I connect with think that they are there. They think that their soul is there. But then when I meet them, I can feel their resistance still. And it's almost like the mindset stuff that you've been working on isn't enough, right? This is why my work's mind, body, and soul. And it's this holistic approach to your whole beingness, because you can't see that you're still operating from those old timelines, right? You think that because you're now thinking more positively, or you've had a couple of holidays a year, that you're now in this positive mindset. And you probably are in a positive mindset, but it doesn't mean that all the trauma has gone from your body. It's still there. And it'll take one trigger and you'll come tumbling down like an avalanche, right? And I think that so many women are scared to do this work because they think the avalanche is coming. But when you start to consciously move through these spaces with grace, there's no need for an avalanche, right? You start to clear from the top down and or from the down up. So then that means that when it gets to the peak, it's no bigger than a small hill, and even when it does come, if it does come rumbling down, which it might not, you're fully prepared and you know what to do to move through that situation. And that's really it. All of the mindset stuff that you've been doing is great. Is it enough? The therapy, the counseling, all of that stuff is great. And that is a great way to start to move this journey. But if you want that deep feeling of softness, of ease, of lightness, of receiving fully with your mind, body, and soul, that comes from deeper layers of work, right? And so I'm saying all of this to say that you do not need to push or prove to anyone or anything anymore. You get to just be the fullest expression of you. And it's allowing those edges to fully soften so you can overpour this beautiful energy out in from yourself into the world and beyond, and continue to be replenished as a result of it. Because that's what my work is. It's not about you being a great friend or a great employer or a great CEO or what you do. It's about you being able to receive that love, support, and energy in return, right? Because the more that you've been giving, right? You've been giving everything you've got to everyone else. It's now about you being able to receive that too. And this is that beautiful reciprocative energy that you deserve. So again, like I said, I invite you to look at the description notes and book yourself in a call with me. If you're not ready for that just yet, there is my self-study available on my website, which you can just take yourself through. And again, it's me talking. So it's not like it feels like it's just a program that you fill out. It's actually me walking through it with you, right? And I'm talking through it, giving my examples. And yeah, I just think that it's just, I can't tell you the beautiful transformations that I've been able to create, not just for myself, but for the women in my life. And, be it clients or be it friends, be it loved ones that are really open and willing to do this work. And it creates this beautiful ripple effect of so much love. And that is what you deserve. You deserve to feel deeply loved, held, and appreciated and respected. But that only comes when you do that for you first, right? So give yourself the permission to soften. Give yourself the permission to receive and to let go of the control, because I promise you, on the other side of all that force, all that hustle, all that pushing, it doesn't slow down. It just flows. So there's no need to push it anymore. It's going to flow, and you're going to flow to where you need to get to through just being who you are. Your energy will be it in itself, right? And when you start to take yourself more seriously in that respect, from that divine feminine space, from that empathy space, from that love space, an unconditional love space that you deserve to give yourself, when you feel that, the whole world feels it too. And that is magnetism. And that's your radiance shining out, making this universe and this world a better place. So drop me a DM, book yourself a call. Let's move through this together. If you're listening to time, April 2025 is the last chance to work with me on a one-to-one basis for this year. I've got a year available, or 6 months available, for 5 women. And then I'm closing this out because I'm starting something different, which you will hear about. But the one-to-one offering will no longer be available for the rest of the year. So please, if you've been thinking about it, if you've been and ahhing, let's just have a call and see if it's the right space for us, because I won't want you to miss out on this opportunity, especially at this price point, knowing all of this beautiful wisdom and ease that I've had and created with these women, and I think it's just crazy how deeper their connections are with everyone in their life, and even down to like their partners saying to them like, oh, Sherisse has really helped us be able to open up our relationship and have these conversations, like those are the gold dust moments, when other people outside of you notice your transformation. Hands down beautiful. And it actually happened the other day that a friend of mine, a business friend, one of my clients, had messaged her about something else to do with what she does, and she came back to me and said, I can tell that lady had worked with you because she was able to articulate her emotions in such a eloquent way. She had all this knowledge and deep understanding of herself, and that could only come through working with you. And I was like, thank you. That is the most beautiful feedback, and yeah, receipt of my energy and field that I know and do and love. And I think that you deserve the world, and right now you're giving it to everyone else and not yourself, and that's really ultimately it, right? So soften. You deserve it. Sending so much love and light. And again, my DMs are open, my link is below, the self-study is below, and anything you need from me in between, reach out. See you next week.
If this episode resonated with you, please do like, follow, and share with someone that you know would benefit. If you're looking to dive in deeper to becoming your most unapologetic, most authentic, shining self, please do head to my website and join my newsletter, where you'll find out about all of my upcoming events and speaking opportunities and all of the things that I have going on. And also, if you would like to work with me, please do drop me a DM on any of my socials or through my website. Love and light.